Hey guys, what's up? It's Savannah. Welcome back to another episode of My Thoughts Exactly. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. Before we get started, make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Friday. You're not going to want to miss it. We also upload the video version onto YouTube on Fridays as well. So make sure you are subscribed. And with that being said, you guys, happy Friday. I hope you guys have had a great week. And if you haven't, guess what? It's Friday. It's the weekend. You did it. Happy Friday, you guys. This is the first episode since Christmas, since the holidays. This is always such a weird in-between time, I feel like. There's always just this weird couple of days from Christmas to the New Year. It's like, what is that? It's 6 days. It's like a week, I think. It's a full week of leading up to that. Maybe not. I don't know. I can't do math right now. But it's always such a weird in-between period, I find. I'm always like, I don't know what to do with myself during this period. And I always am just like twiddling my thumbs until the new year starts because I'm like, okay, let's get back to it. I don't know if that's like the Capricorn in me or what. It might just be I don't know, the avoidant in me. But either way, hi. Happy Friday. I hope you guys have had a great week so far, and I'm so excited to be back. This is actually the last episode of 2024. I truly cannot believe that this year is coming to a conclusion and coming to an end. I feel like the year flew by, and it scares me because I feel like the older I get, the faster time seems to be going, and if I think about that too long, I will spiral. So we're not going to deep dive into that, but I do feel like this year has just completely gone by so fast, and so many things happened this year. And I think it's really cool. There's a TikTok trend going around right now where it's like, initially telling yourself, it's like a picture and the picture says, I didn't do much or I didn't accomplish much this year. And then the second slide is all of the things that we accomplish or, that someone else accomplishes that I feel like so often get overlooked, just like the little things in life. Sometimes I feel like once the year comes to an end, we're like, what did I do this year? Like, I feel like I didn't do anything. I feel like I didn't, get as much done as I want to. And I feel like oftentimes we don't give enough or give ourselves enough credit for what we did do and the things that we did accomplish. So as we go into the new year, I just really encourage you to, first of all, give yourself a freaking pat on the back for getting through it. But second of all, to just remind yourself of all of the things you did get through this year and that you should really be proud of yourself for that. And I just wanted to kind of say that before we get into today's episode, because we're not doing, a New Year's related episode today. We're actually doing the second part, the promised second part of the What Would Sav Do from last week. But I felt it would not be right to not just, recognize the symbolism of moving into the new year. I'm so excited for 2025. I feel like it's just going to be such a transformative year. I feel like there is some sort, I don't know if it's because it's like an odd number. It's like a 5. Like I feel like 5 and 10 are just like very strong, powerful numbers. And it's not my favorite number, but I do think that they're good numbers, and something about 2025 just sounds like strong. It also is 10 years since I've graduated high school, and that to me makes me sick. So anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. I'm very excited to go into the new year with you guys. I'm very excited to just embrace another year and see where it goes. So with that being said, let's jump into your What Would Sav Do's from last week, because we certainly did not get through all of them, and I'm very excited to just dive right in again, because you guys, like, you came through with the What Would Sav Do stuff. I was taken aback, very much so. But let's jump right on into it. First one, I was talking to a guy for a week and a half. We went out on a lunch date and everything was great. He would always respond to me when he could, even when he was at work, and we called and FaceTimed at night. We went on a date on a Thursday and texted after the date, but Friday we didn't talk much. Saturday we didn't talk much, but he said he wasn't feeling great and he's bad at checking his texts. Sunday he didn't text me at all, so Monday I texted him just to check in and we had a quick conversation, and it's now Wednesday and I haven't heard from him, but he's been active on social media. He's so great at communicating with me prior to the date, and now after the date, it just seems like he's distant. He's 28, I'm 22. Do I just say whatever and move on to the next? Yes, that's exactly what you do. Would be exactly my advice. Let me tell you something. I feel like, first of all, it's very normal to go on a date with someone where you like them, you see potential, you could see it going somewhere, and there's a sense of disappointment when we don't get that same reaction back reciprocated towards us. That is not at the fault of you. You did nothing wrong. You did nothing that would make him feel a certain type of way. I think it's really easy to be overcritical of ourselves and really overthink in situations like this. And if you're anything like me, when I would go through these exact same scenarios, I would replay the date over and over and over again. I would replay every text. I would just overanalyze everything because I'm trying to find the one place where it went wrong. And I am going to strongly encourage that you do not do that, because you will search forever for an answer that is not there because you did nothing wrong. I think oftentimes this just happens. Sometimes people go on a date and it's just it just doesn't fit. There's just not it's not that reciprocated feeling. And it sucks because, especially when we like someone, we want that back. And when we don't get that back, we tend to feel a sense of disappointment. And I just want to say that I think it would be in your best interest to move on and continue to date around and to just not even think about it. I will always stand by the saying of they always come back no matter what. I don't care if you've been on 1 date or 12 dates or 24 dates, they will always come back. I don't think that this necessarily is someone that you should not want to be with just based off of the communication style alone. I think you need to ask yourself, is this the type of person that I want to date? Would my husband do this? Would my husband go on a date with me and, be distant and not text me and, leave me questioning and leave me feeling anxious and leave me feeling, doubtful about what it was? Would he do that? Probably not. The person that you're meant to be with is not going to make you feel these things, and take it as a sign to just redirect yourself and keep it moving. I know it's really hard, especially when we see people active on social media. You're like, what the heck? Like, what are you doing on Instagram and you haven't texted me back? Why aren't you, the communication is faded. And I think it would, again, just be in your best interest to move on and to keep focusing on yourself, and the right person will come along that won't make you feel this way. And it will also make you understand why things needed to happen the way that they did. And again, I just would not overanalyze this. I would not overthink this. I would just kind of, wipe my hands of it and keep it moving. I've never had a boyfriend, and I'm turning 24 in a few weeks. I just moved to a big city too. What would Sav do? If this is more so pertaining to you never having a relationship and just thoughts about that, first of all, I think that the societal pressure of having serious relationships at a young age, or at any age really, is such a weird social construct where, if someone isn't in a relationship, we're like, why? Oh, there must be a problem. And it's like, no, that's not always the way that works. And I think that, for your circumstance, I think that if I were in your position, I would just say to you, it's okay. Where you're at in your life is okay. You are not falling behind. You are not, not everyone is moving and accelerating in their life, and you're just being stuck in the shadows. And I think oftentimes it can feel like that. I know for me personally, and this is obviously different age ranges and stuff, but I remember growing up, I always was the one who was not being, asked out to dances, and I didn't go on dates, and I didn't have my first kiss until I think I was in the 9th grade or something. And I remember that was really late for everyone at my school. Everyone was doing God knows what at that point, but I was 15 or so. And I, wasn't actually, sleeping with people until way later on after that. And that was, late in the game for a lot of people. And so I can relate in the way where it feels like something is wrong because you feel like everyone else is having these experiences, and why aren't you? Is it something that's wrong with you, or is it the issue with you? And I'm here to tell you, no, it is not. And I think that if anything, use moving to a new city as a new chapter and a fresh start. And, whether you want to go on dating apps or not, I would recommend it. I think it's a great way to meet people, and, obviously be safe and use all the precautions. And, if you use it wisely, it can really be a great tool to just expand your horizons and start meeting people. And I think that that's a great way to do it. But don't pressure yourself into falling into a relationship just because you feel like you have to. I feel like that's actually a really dangerous thing to do, because not only are you doing yourself a disservice, but you're going to be falling into a relationship that you don't actually really like just because you want to say you're in a relationship. I remember before I had a boyfriend, like my first real boyfriend, I was always like, oh, I can't wait to have a boyfriend. I can't wait to have a boyfriend. And I ended up dropping my standards because I just wanted that title so badly. I was like searching for that and, some validation that was in that of saying that I had a boyfriend. But in return, I was really lowering my standards and doing myself a disservice by not being with people who actually respected me and valued me and whether or not we were compatible. I really didn't care. I was just like, oh, this guy wants to be my boyfriend, awesome, cool. Don't do that. Just have the respect for yourself and understand the value that you bring to the table and know that the right person is going to come along when they're going to come along. And it doesn't matter if you try to accelerate the process or not, it's not going to change what's already meant to happen. And I'm just someone who likes to believe in those types of philosophies because if I don't, I'll spiral. But I digress. I just think it's one of those things where we can, again, similarly to the last submission, we could sit here and overanalyze and, critique ourselves and pick ourselves apart for no good reason because it's not you. It's not like an issue. It's not like there's a problem with you. And so and I say that, not because I think that, I say that because that's the mindset that I had when I was in a situation, not in the same age range, but in a similar scenario, similar mindset of why is this not happening to me? So that's what I would say to you. And also from the looks of it, from all of these, like, are we dating the same guy Facebook pages and all these red flag Facebook pages and all the dating horror stories I see, maybe not dating right now is a good thing. It will happen for you, I promise. And it's one of those things where I read this somewhere and it's like once you have a first experience, you'll never be able to get that first experience back. And you know, relate that to a lot of my life experiences that I've had and all of the things that I tried to accelerate because I felt like I was falling behind. My first kiss, for example, I don't have some cute first kiss story. I kissed some random guy that I met once before at an 8th grade party and we never talked again. It's not like a cutesy, like storybook fairy tale story. I think I've explained my first time story. We know that good and well. Like I just kind of, again, lowered those standards because I just wanted to speed the process up. But I just really encourage you not to do that because I think that there's just so much value in holding yourself to a certain standard and prioritizing yourself and knowing and just kind of accepting the fact that things will happen when they happen. You want your first boyfriend to be someone that you really like and to be someone who, deserves to have that title, not just because you're going to rush into it and, slap the title on someone just because you want that to happen, if that makes sense. I started a new job at a hospital as a nurse. I've been there for 4 months and I'm just really unhappy and anxious all the time. I want to apply somewhere else, like a doctor's office or a clinic, but I don't want to regret leaving and lose out on an experience. I'm also very worried about what my family will think. I don't want to disappoint anyone or have anyone feel like I'm being a quitter. What would Sav do? First of all, I think that this is a very normal fear that people have, and it's a very big, anytime you move or transition into a new job, it's a big change. And the first thing I want to say in regards to like the feeling like a quitter thing, and this is just kind of goes as an overall answer to this and my opinion on this, I think that first of all, the people in your life should be supportive of you no matter what. And most importantly, when you are making a choice for yourself, when you are standing your ground and saying, I am not happy. I am not happy here for whatever the reason is, anxiousness, whatever. Recognizing and vocalizing, I'm not happy here and I need to make a change for myself. If there's anyone in your life that says that you're a quitter because of that, then I would reevaluate your relationship with them because I think that what's really, really important is listening to yourself, listening and being in tune with your own emotions and your own feelings. And if you recognize right now that you are not enjoying it and this is not something that you see yourself doing and see yourself happily doing, then the beauty beauty of life is that you get to make that decision. You get to make the decision to change your circumstances, and you're in a position to be able to do so. If this was a circumstance where, you had been there for a week and a half or 2 weeks and you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm anxious, I would, I think that that's still valid, but I would probably encourage you to give it some more time. I feel like you have given it ample time to progress and change, but, if you're still set in how you feel. And if those feelings haven't changed, if you're still feeling those anxious feelings over, the entire situation, then I think it's important that you listen to yourself. And anyone who's going to give you any shit about that, I think that, again, you should reevaluate your relationship with them. I think what's most important right now is doing the things that make you happy and doing the things that make you, feel like level-headed and a sense of peace and clarity. And I think that that's really important. And I think that obviously, there's this sense of, oh no, what are they going to think? And I can't tell you to turn that off, because that voice is always going to be there. But I encourage you to have your voice overpower that one, because I think that what's important is, again, listening to yourself. If you have made the decision in your mind, which it sounds like you have, staying longer is only going to be doing a disservice to yourself. Staying longer is only going to, it's only going to increase the feelings that you have. And I think that it would, again, repeating myself, but again, a disservice. I think it would be a disservice of you to stay. And I think that you should be doing what makes you happy. And I think that you should choose a career path or any sort of path that brings you peace. And if this isn't it, then that's okay. And you tried it. And if it's not for you, it's all right. That's, again, the beauty of life. You get to change at any given point in time. You can always change your mind. And again, if people are going to critique that, then that's on them. But what would you rather do? Have people talk shit, but you be happy? Or have people be complacent and you be miserable? The people that are going to support you are the important people in your life. And I think that, people who actually love and care about you, they will have those feelings towards you and they will want to see you happy. I think that, that might come with some initial shock value or some initial comments from the people in your life. And if it does, okay. But in the long run, people that are meant to be in your life are going to support you. The people that love you are just going to want you to be happy no matter what. So I would just focus on yourself. I would make the decision that's best for you. And I would, do it sooner rather than later, because I think that nothing is ever promised. And I think it's important to just, choose yourself, prioritize yourself. I lost my sex drive and I can't get it back. I only do the deed with hubby once a month, if that. What would Sav do? Okay. I feel like I can make a whole episode about this, because I do feel like I have a lot to say in pertaining to this topic, but there's a lot that could be connected to this. This could be hormones. This could be diet. This could be, a laundry list of other things that are going on. And that's, again, we could get into that at a later date if this is like a full on episode that we want to talk about. But what I will say just initially is I think that people underestimate the power of a good date night. It's so simple and it's so easy, but it's something that often gets overlooked. And I really think it is something that, as a society, the art of a good date night has been lost upon us. And we underestimate how much of an impact that can have. I will tell you this, in the times in my life where I have felt just like, mundane, blah, not feeling it, not feeling good about either myself or whatever it is, whatever the root cause of it is. If my boyfriend, fiance, whoever, takes the power and initiative to plan a date night, a dinner preferably, we have good wine, we have good conversation, the planning is there. If I feel like he took the initiative to plan a nice date for us, he's taking me out, I'm getting dressed up, I'm, making myself look nice, I'm putting myself together, I feel good about myself, I'm going into this date, confident and feeling good, and I'm having some wine and we're having a conversation. It does wonders. I promise you. I would start there. I would approach your husband and I would say, listen, and again, if this is already something that's been done, I will get to that in a second, but this just goes as advice, period. I would approach them and say, listen, this is what I need. I need a date night. I want you to pick the place. I want you to pick the time. I want you to make the reservation. I want you to tell me when to be ready and, make it a surprise. It'll be fun. You plan it and let me just show up and put on a cute outfit, make yourself look nice. I'm sure you do always, but, so where you feel confident, throw on something that makes you feel good. Go have a fun date, do a fun activity, reconnect. I think that again, when you're living with someone, we talked about this, and I think it was the episode, The Blueprint of Living Together, something like that, I think it was called. It's easy to fall into a mundane routine. It's easy to just day in, day out, and then you add kids into the mix, or you add schedules into the mix, or you add work into the mix. It's easy to just things get mundane after a while. Things get routine. You lose a spontaneity, you lose a spark. And sometimes you have to work to get that back. And I think that that is also something that is misconstrued, is that, you don't have to work for it to be there. There is definitely a line when it comes to that, but relationships take work. You have to make the time to reconnect. You have to make the time to, set aside for that quality time. It's so important. So I would encourage you to go to your husband and just say, listen, you plan the date night. If you have kids, you get the babysitter, you plan everything, and let's go have a good time. You want to feel wined and dined. You want to feel sought after. You want to feel, like someone is pursuing you. That is an attractive quality. And so that's where I would start. If after all of that and you had a good night and you're feeling it and you're feeling good, but you're not feeling that, you don't want to go there, then I would maybe do a little bit of more of some introspective thinking. Maybe get your hormones tested. I think that oftentimes there's answers in there that we just overlook sometimes. Maybe we just sometimes we just don't know. Sometimes there's a chemical imbalance somewhere. So I would recommend getting your hormones tested. I would also just recommend, looking into certain things where maybe there's something missing. What I'm saying is introspective thinking. Do some conversations with yourself and ask yourself, what's the real reason here? Is it because I'm not attracted to him? Is it because there's something, in our day-to-day routine where I don't like? Is it something that he is saying? Is it something that I'm doing? Do I not feel confident? Those are the questions that I would ask yourself. And through those questions, you might find the root cause of it. You might find the root answer to it all. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm blabbering a lot, but that would just be where I would start. Would you give up on your dream career if you've been working towards it for 10 years with little progress? This is hard. This is very, very hard because I'm never going to be the person that tells someone to give up on their dream, but I might encourage you to consider a plan B. I would consider, and I would advise you to consider, is there anything that you can do to make money during that time that includes your dream? What is it that's your dream? If your dream is becoming a singer, for example, or an actor, or something like that, if you've been working at that for so many years and it's not going anywhere, could you get another job or start a career that was something in the film industry or something in the music industry? Or if it's like painting or being an artist, could you get a job working at an art gallery? Certain things like that, where I would encourage you to look into. So where you're still surrounded by your passion, but it's just kind of shifted in a different light. And also when you're involved in that scene already, it makes it easier to continue to work on your dream. I'm never going to tell you to stop following your dreams or stop pursuing your dreams, but I would encourage you to have a plan B just because I think it's a smart thing to do. Hi, Sav. This is for the What Would Sav Do? I'm the girl who messaged you back in episode 99, hoping you remember a little, about the guy who was talking to me for 8 months saying he wanted a relationship, he'd be with me, but then went back to chilling with his ex with no warning. After we stopped talking, he went to rehab for drugs and alcohol and started dating that ex again. I'm just confused because he cheated on her before, so I'm confused why all of a sudden he wants to be sober and loyal to her this time, but couldn't do this for me. It's also been on my heart to message him on how I feel, but seeing as I'm pretty sure he's with her again and it's been 4 months of no contact, I don't know what the best thing to do in this situation. What would Sav do? Love you. First of all, I love you too. Second of all, I do remember. Here's what I would say. I think that you will drive yourself crazy with the what ifs. I think that asking yourself why someone will do something for someone else that they couldn't do for you will quite literally drive you insane. And I know that because I've been there. I can't tell you how many times I have been the girl right before the girlfriend, the girl that they told me that they weren't ready for a relationship with. It wasn't the right time for a relationship with them. And then 2 months later, what do? Surprise, they get into a relationship. How funny is that? I have been that person so many times, and I have questioned myself. I've questioned the scenario. I've asked myself, what do they have that I don't? I have been in that situation more times than I would like to admit. We know this. But here's what I will tell you. Asking and trying to figure out the root of why is going to drive you crazy. There are certain things in life that we just don't need answers for, and this is one of them. This is not an answer you need for closure, because regardless of what the answer is, it's not going to be anything that you like to hear. It's not going to be anything that you want to hear. I think what's important for you is to just come to terms with the reality of it, of the situation, and try your best to move on. I know that that is so much easier said than done, because so often situationships are 20 million times harder to get over than relationships. You guys, I could go into that forever, but I understand how difficult it is to close the chapter on someone when you feel like there's still something left. Like, I still need to say my piece. The reality of it is that you don't. If you want to, then do it. But ask yourself why you're doing it. Are you wanting to say your piece and say how you feel because you want him to know? Or are you saying how you feel, or do you want to say how you feel because you want an answer? You want a reaction. You want, him to say something back to you. And I think that if it's the latter, I would highly recommend not saying your piece and not giving him really any sort of contact with you, because I don't think that he deserves it. And the way that you can kind of figure this out is if you would be okay with sending that text and then just blocking and deleting his contact. Would you be okay with that? Because if that's the case, then yeah, send it, because then you just, you won't hear from him, and his contact will be deleted, and you're just saying your piece. But if it's because you want a reaction out of him, or you want him to say something back to you, I don't think that he's deserving of that. And I think that it would be doing yourself a disservice. We're never going to have the answers to these types of questions as desperately as we might want them. And at the end of the day, I think what this comes down to, he didn't deserve you. He doesn't deserve any more of your time, of your attention. And, I think sometimes it's a fake it till you make it process. And that's just what I've learned. Like, so often I've had so many like paragraphs written out for these motherfuckers who have just like done me so wrong in the past. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put him in his place. I'm going to say what's on my mind. I'm going to just like tell him off. It's never, ever been a good idea. And by the way, I never have. I will always write the text in the notes app. I actually encourage this as well. Write the text in the notes app, and I keep it there. I keep it there. I keep it there. I keep it there. And I will wait, and I will wait, and I will wait. And there will be a time where I will look back at that text and I will be glad I didn't send it. Because at the end of the day, these guys that we deal with, not me anymore, but Savannah in the previous life, these men or boys, sorry, did not deserve, they don't deserve the final text. They don't deserve it. And you're never going to get the answer that you want. You're never going to get the response that makes you feel better. I just think it's best for you to just wipe your hands of it and move on, because if you're not going to get the response that you want, which I don't know if that's, him saying that he made a mistake, or maybe that's him, whatever that is, I just think that it's best for you to wipe your hands of it and keep it moving. I think that sometimes we just need to accept that we will never get the answers that we want, because what answer do you want? I think that that's a good question too. Like, what answer are you looking for? Are you looking for him to tell you that, you know, he made a mistake? Are you looking for him to tell you that maybe he just liked her more than he liked you? I think that we could look at this from many different angles and be like, okay, he cheated on her. First of all, he's her problem now, and you should be so happy about that. I think that it's easy for us to be like questioning all of these things. It's easy for us to sit here and be like, what was it? What is it? And this goes back to the first submission as well, when we can like overanalyze and be super critical of ourselves. It was never you. Let her or let him be her problem now. Quite literally. Good riddance. You can have him, you can take him. You will understand soon enough why this needed to happen. You will understand why he was put into your life to teach you the lessons that he's teaching you once you fully close that door and close that chapter and move on and you start dating around, you start meeting new people, you meet your person eventually down the line, whenever that is. You will understand why this needed to happen. And so that is what I encourage of you, to just not send the text, write it in the notes app if you need to, keep it there and keep it moving. That's what I would suggest. Again, I know it's so much easier said than done. I always feel like I need to say that because nothing that I'm ever telling you guys do I think is like a super easy thing. Like when I'm like, oh, just forget about it. Oh, just move on. Trust me, I know it's not that simple. Believe me. Okay, this next submission, it's kind of like a two-parter. There's one in the question box and then it's elaborated a little bit more in the answers. So it says, I was friends with a guy in high school before COVID, but I have no way of contacting him and I like him. But the more context to this is, I have known him since I was 12 or 13, and we had classes together freshman and sophomore year in high school. Our sophomore year was cut short because of COVID, and I haven't been able to talk to him since. Why not? Why haven't you been able to talk to him? Is he not on like online or on social media, or why have we not been able to talk to him? And if you like him, I mean, if you like him, I would find a way to get in. I mean, I'm assuming maybe he has no social media. Does he not have a Facebook? Does he not have, gosh, I don't know. I mean, if there's no way to get it, okay, let's just say that if there's actually no plausible way for you to get in contact with him and you do like him, I would just say that, you know, maybe you'll meet each other down the road again. Maybe you'll be reunited again. Maybe I would ask around to your friends. Like, does anyone know this guy? Does anyone remember this guy? Or I would encourage you to just kind of keep it moving. And if you've gone this long without talking to him, I think maybe I would just continue on that. I would potentially just try to meet more people, try and, continue on with, how things are going, and maybe you'll meet someone new down the line. Or maybe just like take the time and focus on yourself and don't even focus on dating. That's always a great option as well. I actually highly consider it, or actually not consider it. I don't consider it, but I advise it. I think it's a great, great option. But if there's someone that if he's really not able to be contacted, I don't know. Maybe I would just take that as a sign that you should just move forward and not worry about the past with him. And there's going to be a lot more people out there that you like as well. I promise. I want to do a trip with my friends, but I feel I'm the only one trying. I no longer want to go, but I'm having FOMO. So is the trip happening, but you're just not planning it anymore? And so now you don't want to go? Um, you have fear of missing out, but you don't want to go, but you have FOMO and you want to do the trip, but your friends, aren't really putting in as much effort. If the trip is not happening and you're the one only planning it, then I would just not do it, because obviously if no one's going to appreciate the effort that you're putting into planning, then why would you plan a trip with everyone at all? You should instead just take yourself on a nice little staycation and go stay at a hotel, go get yourself a massage and like do that instead. I wouldn't, worry about trying to put in effort in a place that it's clearly not reciprocated. I feel like the only time that these types of like trips work is if everyone's, on the same page with it. And if everyone isn't, then I would just, wipe my hands of it and be like, okay, never mind. I'm just going to, do my thing. And, I promise you, you will have just as much fun on like treating yourself on like a spa day, overnight staycation thing. But if it's happening and now you're just like, oh, like no one, I just don't want to go now, I would just go probably. If that's the case, if the trip is already happening and you're just like, I don't want to go because I feel like no one's putting as much effort as I am into it, I would just go. I would just go because, again, I just do it for the plot, and I would just go. And then you could, maybe have a conversation with everyone there and just tell them how you feel and be like, listen, this is my issue. This is how I'm feeling. And maybe they will be receptive to that. And if they're not, then they're not your friends. And also, if you're like kind of friends with one person in this group more than the rest, I might lean in on them a little bit and be like, I'm kind of frustrated because I feel like I'm putting in a lot of effort and it doesn't feel like that's, being reciprocated. It doesn't feel like anyone really wants to do this. I would just kind of see what they say and maybe play off of that. Maybe they know something. Maybe they know that maybe not everyone wants to go on the trip. And that's okay too. If people don't want to go on this trip, then that's okay. I just think that in that case, like you can't really force everyone to go on the trip. So take yourself on a trip. That's what I would do. I would just say screw it and I would take myself on a trip. I got out of a toxic relationship and now I get bored easily with everyone healthy that I talk to. Okay, here's what I've learned. I have learned that oftentimes when people are in toxic relationships and they experience a certain and they become used to a certain sort of treatment and certain adrenaline and certain toxicity and that roller coaster of emotions, when we're used to that type of chaos in our lives, oftentimes peace and stability, we can get that confused with boredom. Oftentimes we will label a peaceful state of mind as we're bored because we're so used to chaos and we're so used to a certain way of living and a certain type of partnership that anything healthy kind of scares us because this is boring. Like where's the excitement? Where is the adrenaline of like the breaking up and the making up and the yelling and the toxic and all of it? I will tell you this. You will get to a point in your life, I can almost promise you, where you are not going to be searching for toxic anymore. And I think it comes with training, and I think it comes with age, and I think it comes with time. I think that after I got out of my really, really toxic relationship, I thought that I wanted healthy. I thought that I wanted stability. But the guys that I would go for and the people that I was dating were literally the very opposite of that. It was so unstable and it was so unhealthy, just in different ways. And I think that I had to really have a kind of like come to Jesus moment with myself and just be like, listen, you need to get to the root of this. And the root of it, I realized, is that I run to chaos. And that is what I've learned about myself. I will fill my life with chaos because oftentimes that is more comforting to me than being at peace because I feel bored. And if I feel bored and I feel stagnant, I kind of sometimes have this tendency to feel trapped. And that is something that I actively had worked through at that time. And I realized at a certain point, I don't want toxic. I don't want the constant breakup, makeup. I think that with the right person, you will realize that you don't want that, but also the right person will not make you feel bored. And I think that it's very okay after you get out of a toxic relationship to maybe put a pause on the dating life, and not even just a toxic relationship, any relationship. Put a pause on the dating life. Focus on yourself. Do the work for yourself so that you can show up in a better way when you begin dating next. And I don't mean like in a better way, like you're in a bad way now. I just mean in a way where you kind of can understand how you feel about that, going towards the chaos and being, quote unquote bored. And I think that I actually feel like I could do a whole episode on this because I'm in therapy and we talk about this in therapy is about, leaning into chaos because it's, more comforting at times, but I promise you that is not sustainable. And so what I encourage you to do again is just kind of put a pause on the dating, put the brakes on it a little bit. And I would just focus on yourself. And then when you're ready and you feel in a good spot, I would open up the world to dating again. And I would kind of challenge yourself to be in relationships or date people that are healthy. And as you're doing it right now, but, you know, maybe switch the perspective and remind yourself why you feel like you're bored. It's not because maybe some of these people are boring. I don't know, maybe they are, but it's not always because of that. It's oftentimes because we're so used to a certain way in relationships that when we don't get that, we feel uncomfortable and we don't know how to handle it. But a lot of times we just have to remind ourselves, and I had to do this too. I had to do this with Hayden. I had to like remind myself when I started dating Hayden, and I was like, this guy is just too nice. Like he is too nice. I don't get it. He's too nice. And I just had to remind myself, Savannah, it's because all you're used to is toxic. All you're used to is unhealthy. All you're used to is fighting. And I've said this before, like Hayden and I don't fight. Like we don't have those types of arguments like I've had in my past relationships. We have disagreements, yeah, but like we don't have that same like push, pull, adrenaline, like, oh my God, the breaking up and the making up and the roller coaster. And I think that you do get to a point just in life where you realize that that's not what you want. And so I do think that you will get there. And just because you're not there right now is okay. But again, I would encourage you to shift your perspective a little bit. My boyfriend and I need to go no contact with his brother and fiance. Do you have advice? We fear we will lose the whole family. Well, I would say to you is similar to one of the previous submissions about the changing of the jobs. I think that if anyone in your family is trickier, but I would have a conversation with the other members of the family. And I would say, listen, we feel like it is best for us to have no contact with insert brother and fiance's name here. That does not mean that we don't want to have contact with you. We love you. We still want to have this relationship with you. We want to be close to you. And we're kind of nervous that this might alter that dynamic. But we're communicating this to you because we want you to know that we do want to continue having a, healthy, positive relationship with you, and we love you. And I would just really, affirm that in that conversation. And I would hope that, the people that you're having these conversations with can respect the decision that you're making, and also really, look at it from a perspective of this is what you're doing that's best for you. You're making a decision that's best for you. Maybe they're not going to make the same decision, maybe they will, but you're making a choice that's best for you. And if they can respect that, great. And if they can't, then that's something that they're going to have to deal with, and that's something that they need to work on. Again, if it's going to be what's best for you and your family, the family that you've created, then it doesn't really matter what everyone else thinks, because what's going to matter is what makes you happy. Would you rather be miserable? No. And if that's the alternative, screw it. I would have those conversations with the rest of his family, maybe individually or in groups, and just express to them where your head is at. And if they have an issue with it, let them. That's their issue to have. All right, you guys, we are going to cut it there. I feel like I've been talking forever. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This was the last episode of 2024. I love you guys so much. I cannot wait for the new year. I hope you all have a fabulous, festive, happy new year, whatever you plan on doing. My New Year's plans consist of the couch and a bottle of wine, and I cannot wait. I will see you in 2025. And yeah, I love you guys. I'll see you then. Bye.